Alright, I am out in the woods today and I'm filming a follow-up video to my most recent one, and I'm going to talk about a few things. Some things that I probably should have mentioned while I was filming, but I figured this would be the best way to discuss some of the stuff that went on. And I've actually already filmed this, but since the video was published, I've had a lot of comments on it with suggestions or things that folks wanted to hear, so I'm just going to redo this. That way I can go over some of the comments and talk about a few things. But first off, I do want to say that this video was filmed at the end of February, so it's three and a half weeks ago, and there were a lot of things I did wrong. There were a lot of things I learned from that one tree. The tree is a Virginia pine. It was extremely tough in the center, and the top had been taken out by an ice storm. I think the tree is about one cross section of it was 20 inches, the other way was 18 inches, so roughly a 19-inch diameter tree, and I'd say it's probably 50 to 60 years old. Around here, Virginia pine is pretty dense, pretty tough wood, and the centers, the heartwood, is known for storing lots of resin and hardening, so it was a tough old tree. And the center was tough enough to actually put a pretty good ding in one of the corners of the axe, and I've actually peened it back out and kind of took the damage away, but it did knock this corner out just from hitting the heartwood of the tree. I don't know if anybody read the what is it called? The video description. I don't know if anybody read that, but I put just under 600 hits in that tree. A lot of it was due to the density, a lot of it was due to the choice of axe, but I'd say the majority of it was due to me just being out of shape and setting up my cuts wrong. So the front side of the tree was at an optimal height for myself. I was pretty comfortable at that height. However, it was a bit too high. So when I went to do the back cut, I didn't realize it, but the back of the tree was actually the downhill side. So as I moved my cut up to meet higher than my front scarf, I was actually chopping way above my comfort zone. It was very awkward, very tiring, and actually the back side of the tree grew kind of weird, had some pretty nasty knots in it, so that's the reason there were so many hits in that tree. I'm not really used to swinging an axe here lately, just because I haven't been able to do it physically, and my hands are not used to it. This little axe, I've had to do some work to the palm swell because it was very weird, very strange. Whoever made this handle, whatever company, the palm swell is just not to my liking. So I took a flap disc, ground it down to make it a little more presentable and a little more comfortable, and I left it extremely rough. And after, I'd say 350 swings, it had eaten through my calluses that were there from all the timber sports years. Ate right through it and caused me to bleed a lot. I don't know if you can see it better here, but all this discolored section was actually blood. I'm glad it soaked in, but you can kind of see some of the blood there. So not only was I fighting fatigue, fighting a poor choice of scarf height, I was fighting the fact that my hands were bleeding and they were kind of raw. So at the end, I was just ready to get through it. I was tired, having an extremely difficult time breathing. But I'm glad I got it done. I'm glad I was able to make a video out of it. So one thing I'd like to do is review the comments that were left on the video, just because there were a lot of good points made or suggestions, and not only do I want recognition to those, but I want to kind of have a response to them that's a little more natural and where I just read them and kind of talk about it. So I'm going to pick and choose through these in a whatever order I think is best and kind of go over some stuff. Let's see here. We'll start off with Kevin Kevich. He leaves me a lot of comments, and I really appreciate folks that comment on my videos regularly, because they can give you an outside perspective as well as see you progress in whatever video format you've got. So it's good to have repeat commenters. I really do appreciate that. So I'm gonna just read it word for word for the majority of it, and just kind of respond through words the best way I see fit. So what Kevin said was, impressive feat of endurance. It was interesting to see your swing change once you realized you weren't going to power through it in a couple blows. So let me finish. Especially on the undercut, you started to look like a guy at work. That's always my goal. Whoops. That's always my goal when felling. So Kevin's right in his assessment of what I was doing. I am used to the heavier axes, and I'm used to the timber sport swing. So when I got up there, I was treating it like it was just another standing block chop, and I was just gonna slowly gnaw through it and raise my top cut just to get deeper into the wood. But what I started noticing is that I would peak to the point where I couldn't breathe very much. I was fatiguing myself pretty quickly relative to what I should be able to do. But like I said, I was treating it like it was a 4, 5, 6 pound axe, when I should have been treating it like the axe that it is, which is a 28-inch, 2 1/4 pound axe. I know this, a lot of you know this, but you have to have a bit of a whip or a bit of a fling at the end of your swing to get that axe to really chop good in larger wood. And I just wasn't doing that. And by the time I realized what I was doing, my hands were all chewed up and I was already on the backside, so I wasn't able to do the things that I needed to do to get this axe chopped properly. I'd say on the outside 30%, 40% of the wood, it was actually chipping out pretty well, and the axe was penetrating relatively well for the type of ground that's on it. But yeah, once you got to the center, it was kind of crispy, extremely tough, and this little axe just wouldn't go in properly. So yeah, Kevin's right. I did change my swing. Most of that was due to fatigue, but I should have been a bit more whippy with it, a bit more snappy to get the axe to have the velocity to get a little bit deeper in there. And to finish what Kevin said, he said, I only wish you would have talked to us at the end, maybe tell us how it surprised you or not, if and when you started wanting a heavier axe with a wider bit, and when you should have swapped back to the light axe. Maybe do a follow-up before you start bucking it. Great video, keep at it. So I'm glad that Kevin and I are on the same page with that. I actually, before I even edited that video, I had already recorded my thoughts, and my wounds were a bit fresher, so I was showing those off. But yeah, he's right. I did need to do that. I'm glad I did, and I'm glad he said that, because it made me redo this video. He's one of the main reasons I redid the video of talking about it in the end. So moving on to, let's see if we don't have service anymore. Let's go back. Kurt said, big effort, man. Good to see you up and running. Kurt likes to comment on my videos, and I really appreciate him. Joey said, wow, that was impressive. Dispelling the myth you need a big axe to do big work. I'm an advocate for bigger axes, but I also know and recently have found that you obviously don't need that. Little axes are fun, especially on smaller stuff. They're fun, very handy, useful tool, especially when they cut good. I did have the idea of filming it with the little axe. I wanted to show that you can do that, or certain people can do that. Folks with more experience can get through that, but yeah, I definitely had the idea of using the small axe the entire time. I definitely would have rather chopped with a 3.5 pound axe throughout the whole tree, because I think it would have sped up the process a little bit. But yeah, these little guys are very useful and they are fun to use. Ben Scott said, lovely video, really enjoyed it. Seth said, absolutely brutal, dude. Yes, it was extremely brutal. My grandpa actually walked out and was watching me from the backyard, looking down the hill at me, and he finally walked out there when I was like struggling a bit and was just talking to me and kind of got me through it, because I didn't want to be like looking like a little baby in front of my grandpa, and I wanted to get it down that way he could cut it up for firewood and everything. So let's go to, sorry if I butcher your name, but it's PATC Sawyer. What he said was, nice work, the Heartwood is a real swing stopper. Very correct. Your handle looked a little thick in relation to the small head and allows that traveling shock wave to terminate in your hands. It would be cool to see some close-up slow-mo clips at the point of impact in your next video. So yeah, the handle does look pretty thick in relation to the head. I'd have to agree with you on that. But I did leave him a comment saying that this is my thinnest handle axe, and I've actually taken it down quite a bit from when I first got it, when I first put the helve on the axe. But it's pretty wide, I'd say. I'd say it's thin this way and a little bit wider this way, but it's comfortable. I don't really have an issue anymore with shock. I don't know why that is, but it seems like anything that I get in my hand, I don't really have an issue with shock. I don't really have an issue with shock going through the handle anymore. I'm not sure if that's because of certain timber sport techniques, or maybe my elbows are strengthened from all the swings I've taken. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can enlighten me on why that is. But usually, even if I do get a thicker handle in my hands, I don't experience that. I'd say that in the past I've experienced more shock with a springier handle and extremely hard wood with like a heavier axe. But yeah, I don't really have that issue anymore, which I'm glad, because I know that feeling. It freaking hurts. It sucks. But yeah, I'm glad I don't have that issue anymore. A comment left by Savage Pork Chop. An idea for the next video could be chopping the stump off with a heavy axe and comparing the personal experience. I'm actually getting ready to go do that, and the reason I'm going to go do that is because his comment that was left. I usually like to chop a high stump because it emulates more of your timber sport standing block swing. So I like to get practice in when I can. But another reason is, I mean, when you do that, you do leave yourself some space to take extra swings, especially down swings into that wood, and just do some axe testing. Because once you fell that tree, if you fell it too low, you're not going to have any more felling swing practice in the same tree. It's all underhand or bucking practice. So I like to take as many felling practice swings as I possibly can, since I don't get to do that too often anymore. Daryl said, dude, nice video, I enjoyed it thoroughly. And he asked, is that a Council Tool sport utility line axe? I actually didn't know what that was until he left the comment, so I'm glad he left me that comment. But when I looked him up, I found that this axe is like built like the sport utility line. This is a vintage boys axe from Council Tool. I'd say probably in the 80s is when this came out. So it's not new by any means, and I actually got this from work. But yeah, it's definitely not new, and it's a custom build, but I'd say it's very close to their sport utility just from the pictures I've seen. Brett comments a lot. He said, really enjoyable video, perfect music selection. Your endurance chop was reminiscent of the early scene in the movie where they are running through the seemingly for ages. Actually, when I rewatched the footage, that was just the first thing that came to mind, was some type of acoustic Last of the Mohicans song, and I was lucky enough to find it. So yeah, I think it fit pretty good. I wish I would have edited the video to where the video only encompassed that song by itself. I think it would have been a bit more drastic that way. So yeah, I'm learning this stuff, and I did have some malfunctions with my camera and the syncing up of the sound with the video, so I had to add in the music in the beginning. But yeah, thank you for the comment, Brett, and I definitely agree with you. And we have Neil asking what length the handle is. It's just under 28 inches. I kind of wish it was 26, but I'm able to reach around the tree a little bit better with the 28 inch, so it works out. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, DK Thomas outside actually commented. He said, love the video. Am I wrong, or are you bleeding on the handle? Like I was saying earlier, I did leave in the video description, I left some stuff about the chop in there. So DK Thomas, he noticed that the discoloration on the handle, so he was able to tell that I was bleeding in the footage. But I did leave that in the description that it had opened up the calluses on my hand and caused me to bleed for the second half of the chop. Yeah, I'd say that was probably the suckiest part of it, because at the end I was more focused on not shredding my hand the rest of the way versus actually putting the axe where I wanted it to go. And I was already a bit disoriented because I was having issues breathing, and I was tired at the same time. I hadn't done this in forever, but yeah, I was definitely bleeding. I left this on here to show this to you guys. You just once you build up the calluses, it's good to maintain them, and I have not been doing that. The ladies might not like it, but it definitely makes you look a bit more manly when, or makes you feel a bit more manly when your hands can take something like that. So, but we're going to go back up to the log, and I'm probably not going to cut all the way through both sides, but I'll definitely put this this Tui in it and show the difference between the little boy's axe and what this guy can do. I think this is going to absolutely murder the boy's axe. It's quite a bit wider, which might not be optimal for penetration, but it's got the weight to back it up to help sink it in a little better. And I'll be able to line my cuts up a bit easier, so the chips should come out easier because they're in line. I doubt I'll do any bucking, but I do want to say thank you to Owen Jarvis for sharing that video. I believe I would assume it was on Facebook with some different axe groups. That video has like almost 200 views right now, and obviously I don't have that many subscribers at the moment, but thanks to the guys who did decide to subscribe after watching that. I certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate all the comments and the input. So let's get chopping.
Yep, that's pretty freaking hard. Out here is much softer.